The headlines at the moment here in the UK and elsewhere are all about the cost of living squeeze. Consumers are being hit and hit hard. How does this impact your business?
Well, two things, right? I mean, first and foremost, obviously, part of our business is about making things slightly more affordable. The ability to put something on a short-term installment. So I think from that perspective, we can expect to see consumers see more value in those services. I also think that because we don't charge interest, when consumers, compare and are going to see increasing rates on their credit cards, I think our products may become even more attractive. But I think also from our perspective, on the other hand, one of the strengths of the businesses is that this is very different than your typical bank, right? We have 70% of our balance sheet has been originated in the last 3 months, and we turn around the balance sheet 12 times a year. So this means that our agility, our ability to adopt our business as we go is much higher than you would see with a traditional fintech or banks, and I think that also makes us feel more comfortable going into a changing environment.
Is the buy now, pay later label correct for the business? Because when people talk about it, that's what they say. Certainly that would appear to be the most accurate description, but is that what you want to be?
No, I don't think it actually is entirely accurate. I mean, what's interesting, if you look at our global volume of payments, 40% is pay now, where people pay the full amount up front. We do believe that in an e-commerce environment, when you shop online, there is some benefits to credit over debit because you can touch and feel the product before you pay for it. You don't have to wait for your money on a return and so forth. But in stores, obviously, pay now is even larger. We have over 1 million cards issued. We have billions in depositors depositing money with us. So we have tons of other financial services. So I think that is a slight simplification of our business.
Yep.
And really our ambition here is to create a competitive pressure on the retail banking space.
I mean, I spent a lot of time online shopping like everyone else over the past couple of years. In Europe, I always see the Klarna name associated with my payment. I never know exactly how it works. I just put in the card or the Apple Pay or whatever, and you see the secure connection happening. Where do you want to grow to, Sebastian? And also, not just regionally, but in terms of your business, going from BNPL to, instant payments to what? What's next for Klarna?
Right. Well, I think first of all, what it's all tied back to is what is it that makes customers, hesitate to make a purchase? They may be worried about the price, maybe be worried about, am I buying the right product? They may be worried about, can I afford it? Do I have the money and so forth? Anything that we can do to make consumers feel more comfortable is actually growing and accelerating commerce overall by doing so with the customer's best interest at heart, right? So I think there's tons of opportunity to do that. And one of the things that really sets us apart that I think is interesting is on every transaction Klarna process, we have SKU level data, meaning we know not only that you bought for $100 at H&M, we know exactly what sweater, what size, what color. We then expose that back to consumers. So when you look in our app, you can see your purchase history on a much deeper level than you can do in your credit card statement. As much as these may sound as details, they're very, very fundamental to the experience. They save people time, save people money, and builds that preference towards a Visa or MasterCard or a PayPal. And so that's kind of the longer term opportunity that we see to provide a service that's just richer in data and adds more value to consumers, and that's going to grow preference. The other ambition, and what's great now, is we're live in 45 markets, right? So we're not anymore a local player. We actually do have that global presence, and that's very instrumental when we, have contracts with Macy's, Sephora, H&M, Zara, et cetera, right? So I think that there is really a huge opportunity there to provide financial services of higher and payment services of higher value than what you've seen historically.
I wonder about the impact of Russia's invasion in Ukraine. How has that affected your business? I know personally there are a lot of connections. Your parents were in Poland when the Germans and the Soviets divvied it up. In Sweden now they've rearmed northern bases. How is it affecting the business?
Well, I think, kind of oddly for from our perspective has been the fact that we actually didn't have any business in Russia. We didn't have any business in Ukraine from a Klarna perspective. And so as a consequence of that, we basically on the day of the war starting, we realized very quickly that all of our staff was actually safe and not in the areas affected. And ever since then, we've just been trying to, as I guess a lot of other companies, trying to rally support, trying to raise donations, match donations, do a lot of things, but there has been limited effect from that perspective.